The next book I have to review is one of those wonderful NYRB editions. You see, yes, we all recognize the spines of those things. This is Stoner by John Williams. Not the composer, the novelist. It's probably his best known novel. Still not very well known, though. Until recently, I usually began a book with about the same amount of enthusiasm with which I end it. Good books have inviting beginnings which sustain me through to the end. And to be overly simplistic about matters, bad books can be bad in many different ways. See the first sentence of Anna Karenina. But I usually still trudge through due to my half-hearted attempt at self-discipline and genuine belief that to quit a book is a serious thing indeed. Lately, I've been beginning books with one opinion and finishing them with another, and Stoner was one of those. It begins as a tight, crisp story without lingering over any of the details of the main character's life. His name is Stoner. Or his biographical details too much. Stoner comes from a poor family of farmers, and after a few semesters of thinking about, and sort of has aspirations towards college, right? He wants to get a degree in agriculture and become a farmer just like his parents so he can come back to the family farm and have even more knowledge about how to run it and perhaps make more money, have more leisure time for himself, etc. After a few semesters of college, he realizes that he is really not an agriculture student and that he is an ardent lover of literature. It's his true calling. So he graduates with his degree. He goes on, and he doesn't stop there. He goes on to get his MA, and then he gets a PhD, which sort of being very, very dirt poor, certainly didn't make it to college, may not have even made it to high school, his parents, sort of draws him further away from his parents. He gets married to this woman named Edith, who is a very cold, distant, debutante-like figure, and eventually, sometime into his marriage, has an adorable daughter named, importantly, Grace. As the book and the marriage wear on, Edith becomes more and more inexplicably heartless, tormenting, and cruel. And you feel like you're reading The Good Soldier, something Dreiserian in its ability to induce pathos on the part of Stoner. One of the biggest unsolved mysteries of the novel, and it's really one that should have been explained more carefully, is why a mild-mannered milquetoast like Stoner would have married a complete and total bitch like Edith. Divorce certainly wasn't unheard of a century ago, when these people were, not when he wrote the novel, he wrote it in the 60s, John Williams did, but he's setting this novel in the first couple of decades of the 20th century. Not very popular to divorce back then, but certainly not unheard of, and they didn't run in social circles, Stoner and his wife, where they had to keep up appearances. They mainly gave parties for Stoner's academic colleagues. You know, she rubbed elbows with the professors' wives, right? I mean, that's what everyone does. So what gives? Why is he putting up with this? The question is never really resolved. The one thing the story has going for it, I think, is Williams' absolute refusal to romanticize Stoner as a character. His refusal to romanticize his occupation with academia or any other aspect of his life. This certainly isn't the professorship that Stoner holds. Is certainly not one in an Ivory Tower University. Not that Ivory Tower schools are always so cozy either. where he gets paid to sort of spend hours idling over dusty books in the rare books room, right? This is not the kind of life that he lives at the university. He has several undergraduate classes. He teaches a graduate seminar about the influence of Latin literature in late antiquity, and he's responsible for a spate of graduate students' dissertations. So he's a real teacher. He's got his hands full. He's not one of these researchers who shows up as they please and is just on the dole to write books every once in a while. Nice job if you could get it, but that's not what he's doing. In addition to this, he also researches and writes to be published. I mean, how little things change, right? If you're an academia, you know this. So, first of all, John Williams doesn't romanticize any of that. And also, I think we really get a wonderful sense of Stoner's implacable dedication to the profession of teaching. He's really called not just to literature, not just to the English department, but to mentor students and to teach students. That's what he feels his job is, and he takes it very, very seriously. John Williams was once asked in an interview about Stoner's life, and if he thought it was sad. The small town professor, no notoriety, he's not famous, he hasn't written any famous books, he's married to this woman who doesn't really care for him. The only redeeming thing in his life is his daughter named Grace. When John Williams was asked that question, he said no, that Stoner had an absolutely wonderful life. This good life, this life that's full of wonder, can only be adjudged to be so against Stoner's own standards of what it means to be a teacher and how closely he hewed to those standards. He was a passionate teacher, even though we're told in the opening lines that, quote, Stoner's colleagues, who held him in no particular esteem when he was alive, speak of him rarely now. To the other ones, his name is a reminder of the end that awaits them all, and to the younger ones it is a sound which evokes no sense of the past and no identity with which they can associate themselves or their careers. Let's be brutally honest here. When all is said and done, this will be true for 99.9% of us. Our colleagues will not remember us. Past maybe a generation or two or three, if we are very lucky, we will not be remembered. We will not be written about in history books. Our deeds and our families and our adventures and our thoughts will not be written about in books of philosophy or art. That old Greek wish of being remembered generations and generations hence, which came so easily to Odysseus, just will not come to fruition for most of us. Does that make our lives any less full of wonder or regret or even the sublime? Stoner's life, I think, serves as an answer. No, it doesn't. For it is in how we pursue what is most meaningful to us that marks the truest measure of ourselves. As someone more eloquent than myself said in her Goodreads review of the same book, Stoner is about how the inner life redeems the outer. It is about how the inner life sheds grace on the outer life. And all I have to say about that is how simply and how beautifully put. Stoner by John Williams.